Hey everybody, in this video we thought we would share some of our adventures on our Antarctic cruise as we traveled through Paradise Bay and Elephant Island.
We got to enjoy icebergs, penguins, and whales.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean.
And I'm Deb.
And welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, we are still at sea, and we thought we've had a couple of magical days in two destinations that are really cold. And so what we thought is we would share a little bit about the time we spent traveling through Paradise Bay and through
Elephant Island.
Just so you know, this one, we have so much footage to show you because it's amazing. Icebergs, animals, just incredible stuff that we're just going to narrate a little bit, and we're just going to put the footage up for you so that you can just enjoy it.
So when we left Ushuaia, we took the Drake Passage for a day or so getting down to Antarctica. And we had very calm seas. That doesn't always happen, but we had very calm seas. Yep. So that was very fortunate.
And beautiful weather. It was nice. Yeah.
So while you're looking at some of the footage from Paradise Bay, we thought we would share with you some fun facts about Antarctica. Some of these will seem obvious and some of these might surprise you. So it is the least populated continent. Not a surprise. It is where the South Pole is located.
Right. Not a surprise.
It is the fifth largest continent. So, for example, it's bigger than Europe.
I thought that. I was surprised by that when I learned it, how big it really is.
On average, it is the coldest, windiest, and driest continent. Now, the driest surprised me because
me too.
It holds 70% of the world's fresh water.
That surprised me. When they told us that, I was like, holy cow, 70% of the world's fresh water.
But that's amazing. Basically a polar desert because of the dryness. And so when we were down there, like I kept having this feeling like I was getting sick, like I would getting a sore throat. And we later determined, I think it was just the air was so dry.
Yeah, it's like literally like when you're like in the Sonoran Desert in New Mexico or whatever, like it's just super dry.
It's dry.
Yeah.
So the continent is covered by the Antarctic ice sheet.
Yep.
And that averages, this is crazy, 1.2 miles thick.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, it makes me cold just saying that.
Yeah, they showed us, we were at a presentation and they showed us the thickness of that sheet compared to just kind of like the mountain range and things like that. And I mean, it's just, when you're thinking about a mile and a quarter of ice, that's crazy.
Antarctica holds this will not surprise you. It holds a record for the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth. And that would be at negative 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, puppy coat isn't going to overcome that. No.
Now, there are a lot of historical facts about Antarctica, and there's a lot of disputes about the historical facts. Obviously, this was quite a while ago and before the internet or anything. And so there's, different people claim to be the first at different things.
Right.
But in general, it was first seen in 1820 and first landed in 1895. But that actually is a funny story because there was a rowboat that went over there, and the captain of the ship was on the rowboat, and an explorer was on the rowboat. And the two of them, along with one of just the sea crew, all claimed to have been the first one to have
stepped foot
on land.
Foot on. Yeah.
Yep. And so when we've been going to the Antarctic lectures. And so that was just a funny story. And basically historians give credit to the crewmen because they say, if you think about it, the crewman is who jumps out of the rowboat
in the freezing cold water
to pull it up onto land. And that would have been probably not the captain it probably would have been the crewman. So, okay. Nobody actually owns Antarctica. In 1959, there is an Antarctic treaty system that was created, and that is governed by about 30 countries. So nobody can lay claim. Several different countries have sites on Antarctica for research. obviously not very many people actually live. The population's higher in their summer, obviously.
Right.
It dwindles way down in their winter.
Yep. And they are like, so the cruise ship that we're on, like they were very clear about all of the guidelines and the restrictions that come with being able to bring passengers and tourists into this area. Like they're very clear about hold on to your hats. Do not let anything go overboard. No paper. And if something does go overboard, you have to go report it to the ship because they need to be able to report it.
They have
to
to
the
document that something.
Yeah. So it's a big deal coming down here.
So we were very careful with everything.
Oh yeah.
And we definitely were very bundled up.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk about Paradise Bay, because you're thinking about cold and icebergs and freezing temperatures. You don't really think of the word paradise, but I'm telling you, like for anybody who loves scenery, outdoors, wildlife, animals, it was absolutely paradise.
Yes, it was very amazing. Like we were totally amazed. So Paradise Bay is located along the west coast of the Antarctic Peninsula. And that's kind of northern Antarctic. So right below Ushuaia.
Right.
It was named by whalers in the 1920s. And thankfully, whaling was banned in 1986 because we saw so many whales down there.
I think, I mean, here's the really nice thing about Norwegian and the way they've run this cruise is that they will have someone at the front of the ship up in the kind of pilot's area and they will be spotting for whales or seals or cool icebergs. And so they'll get over the intercom and the announcement and say, hey, we see about 2 miles ahead a pod of humpback whales. They're going to come to the port or the starboard side. So, everybody will like run to one side of the ship or the other side of the ship. But we're lucky because I think we had like the magic side for our cabin and we could sit on our balcony and literally just watch
We did get very lucky because we had upgraded. I had called in for a very inexpensive, upgraded from a porthole to a balcony.
Yep.
But, I really wasn't willing to pay for an expensive balcony, which they're on the other side of the ship.
Right.
And we were going through Paradise. I don't know why they thought that was the expensive side.
I don't know.
Paradise Bay, first of all, when you go in and then turn back around. So if you didn't see something on one side, you're going to see it on the other side anyway.
Right.
And then when we later went on by Elephant Island, everything was on the port side.
It was on our side. Yeah. So it was like
I guess
we got a magic cabin.
We did get a magic cabin. Yes. So in Paradise Bay, there are a couple of research stations. And I believe that if you take, our cruise doesn't like actually land in Antarctica, but you can take expedition cruises that do land in Antarctica where you can actually get out on the land.
You get on the Zodiac and they take you in the cold, in the rubber suits, and you can go.
So I believe one of those stations is in Paradise Bay. But in Paradise Bay, we saw the most beautiful icebergs.
Yeah.
The colors on the blue colors on the icebergs were just amazing. One of the fun things about the icebergs is besides the formations, I'm sure we have lots of video and pictures of formations of the different, but the flat icebergs that would like float by were awesome because every once in a while an iceberg would float by and a sea lion would just be hanging out on the iceberg.
What are you guys doing? Hey.
and that was just, that was exciting. So
I love the shapes of the icebergs. Like you'll see, I'll put the video up that has one of them that literally looks like a whale, like it's shaped like a whale. And then there were others that you could tell like some water had run down them and they kind of looked like slides for penguins or seals or something like that. I mean, the icebergs alone were worth the trip, even if you didn't get to see any of the cool wildlife.
Yes. But we happened to see the humpback whales. One of the expedition guys said he'd been doing this now for like 15 years and he'd never seen so many whales down here. Yeah. And so we happened to get very good weather, good weather.
We had beautiful weather in Paradise Bay.
And they're every time you would step out, there's humpback whales every time. And they're hard to see in the video because they don't come up out of the water a lot. But we were
them. There are times in the frame of the video where you will see 3 and 4 of them at a time where their humps are out or they're spouting. And then occasionally, every once in a while, you'll see a tail fluke come up.
Every time a tail would come up, you can all hear everyone. Everyone's so excited.
Yeah, and they'll fluke up and then they'll go down and everybody's like, yeah.
And then there were, I don't know what you call them, pods of penguins, schools of penguins.
I don't know. Groups of penguins. I'm sure we'll find what the name of them are.
There were so many of them in the ocean. And they just sort of, it's weird because they look like almost like jumping fish. Like they're just like popping out of the ocean constantly, but they're kind of smaller. So it was a little bit hard to see. And then every once in a while you'd see an iceberg off in the distance and you could see all the little black marks of all the little penguins on it. But there was one iceberg that went by and they were all swimming around the iceberg. And Sean said, "Oh my gosh." So one of them just jumped.
Popped up.
So right going by our cabin, and a single penguin just stood there, and he claimed his own iceberg, and he just went sailing by.
He said, "Hi, hello, people."
Yep. So that was very exciting.
Yeah, that was cool. And it's not just whales and penguins and sea lions. We got to see all of this, but the birds
the
are
albatrosses.
amazing. Albatrosses. Just the seabirds are absolutely gorgeous. Like even just today, we're looking out and there's just seabirds flying by our cabin. Gracefully in the wind. Really, really pretty.
Yeah. So after a day of sailing down on the Antarctic Peninsula, we then woke up the next morning to sail by Elephant Island. So Elephant Island is close. It's about 152 miles northeast of where we were in the Antarctic Peninsula. It is part of Antarctica, and it's one of the South Shetland Islands.
I got to tell you, like when we start pulling up, like it started like all foggy and creepy, and and even one of the presenters said, it looks like what Skull Island from King Kong, and you get there and you look at it and you're like, this is not like a friendly place. Let's go,
But it was it was cool to watch go by.
Cool. The fog, I think, made it even cooler.
And the fog didn't stay away around all day. So I heard another crew member say that on the cruise right before us, actually, it was so much fog, I think you couldn't even see.
It was socked in.
But we got very fortunate because the fog would kind of come and go. And when there was just a little bit of fog, it was like perfect and made for better pictures anyway.
Well, that's the thing is when the sun came out, it was really bright and the reflections were kind of hard to see things. When the fog or when the cloud cover came on, then you could really spot the whales and it made the kind of blues of the icebergs really pop. It was cool.
Yep. And so Elephant Island is covered in ice. Not very inhabitable.
No.
I don't believe anybody actually lives on Elephant Island.
Yeah. Like we'll talk about this in a minute, but there's not like friendly beaches to just pull your boat up to. Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's very rugged, as you can see by the pictures. And it was discovered in 1821. So while you're watching pictures of Elephant Island, we thought we would talk about one of the most famous explorers to go down to Antarctica.
Yep.
And this was Shackleton. And he did 3 expeditions. So I think it was 1901, 1907, but his most famous one was 1914 on the Endurance.
The Endurance, yeah.
So the Endurance left London in August of 1914. And I'm sure the beginning of the trip was fine.
Some very hardy sailors ready to go explore.
I'm sure they stopped for supplies, in South Georgia Island, and that was all great.
And then it literally went south from there.
So they made it to Antarctica and became trapped in the ice in January of 1915.
Yeah, and I think they were warned. Like the whaling station said, don't go down there. It's really bad. The ice is bad. Don't go. And they were like, carry on, and headed into the ice and got stuck. So
they became trapped in January 1915. They lived on the boat for quite a while. And then eventually, as the ice started creeping in and squishing the boat, they moved onto the ice. And eventually, 11 months later, in November 1915, the Endurance sank.
Yeah, it just the ice crushed the timbers. It sank to the bottom. And then the ice literally closed up over it.
So then in April of 1916, they're still living on the ice. They decided to row their lifeboats. The ice had started to break a little bit, and they decided to row their lifeboats. I cannot believe this, from Antarctica to Elephant Island.
But hold on, they lived there on the ice for like 9 months.
No, this would have been a year, maybe.
Like a year. Like they're out there on the ice waiting, to figure out if the ice is going to break. What are they going to do?
Yes.
Like living out on the ice.
In Antarctica, they were there for over a year. Yes. So
again, no puffy coats, right? Yeah.
It makes me feel guilty that I visited on a cruise, a luxury cruise. So anyway,
it was not rugged like they were doing.
We did not rough it out.
Yes.
So in April of 1916, they rowed their boats.
Yeah, just a few, not all of them, right?
Yes, all of them left Antarctica and rowed their boats to Elephant Island.
Okay.
And they landed on Cape Valentine. And they soon discovered that, I think because of the water levels, they couldn't stay there. And they wound up going out to Point Wild.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So after about a month of Shackleton, resting up on Elephant Island.
Because I'm sure they were in the greatest health at that point, right?
Yeah, I know they were in very poor health.
Yeah.
They ran out of food. They were trying to live off whatever they could.
Yeah.
So Shackleton and 3 other men rowed one of the lifeboats from Elephant Island to South Georgia Island.
Yeah, and they have the lifeboat, or the rowboat, preserved in a museum in London, I think they said. And they showed, they put a tarp over the top of it so that they could,
anything
protect
they
it from the
could
wind.
do to protect themselves.
Yeah, and they put rocks in the bottom of it for ballast because the waves are so rough out here. So that meant they were sleeping on rocks underneath a canvas in a little boat.
And there's no Google Maps at this point.
There's no Google Map. Yeah, I mean,
they would have, when they left Antarctica, to actually find Falkland Islands they did was amazing. And then when they left Falkland Islands on their basically rowboat to find South Georgia, I mean, that's just amazing. I think it was a much shorter journey for them from Falkland to South Georgia Island.
So and I think they were saying that the boat was, it wasn't easy seas. It was really rough seas. They were being tossed around. So one of the presenters was basically saying this is a absolute needle in a haystack to be able to find an island in the middle of the ocean with all these waves and all this stuff going on.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, Shackleton and his 3 men did make it to South Georgia Island.
Right.
And then it took about 4 attempts on 4 different ships to try to get back down to Elephant Island.
To get the crew.
To get the rest of his crew. Right. And eventually the rest of his crew was rescued in August of 1916.
Yes.
So they left in August of 1914 and were from London and were rescued in August of 1916.
And do I remember right? All of those crew members survived.
All of that particular crew survived. Yes.
Crew, right.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
So it's...
Now, he had sent some men over to another island.
Right.
And those men, that's a whole nother story.
Right.
Not all of them survived.
Right.
So after this whole crazy adventure, which most of us would not do.
Right.
Shackleton decided to do a 4th expedition.
He got bored. He sat around in England for a while.
I think he was bored.
He's like, you know what? I want to go again.
Yep.
And so he did.
He did a 4th expedition.
And what's crazy is he reached out to the men who had been on the expedition with him before.
Any of those same men went?
They did.
They are crazy.
They did. He reached out to them and they said, let's go again.
Yeah. So crazy. So anyway, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But on his 4th expedition, he only made it to South Georgia Island and at the age of 47 had a heart attack. Yep. I can't imagine why.
No, not that he beat his body up.
Everything he put his body through on these expeditions is just absolutely crazy.
But here's some things. I think that, and a lot of people, one of the great lectures that we went to on the ship was about, was Shackleton this hero or was he like this kind of crazy, intimidating guy, and where's the truth in between the middle of them? But I think if you look at him and you see a person who can inspire these men to go do this great thing, and not only once, but then to say, hey, let's go do it again, even though last time kind of sucked. It's got to be pretty amazing, So
they said basically personal life aside, he wasn't really a hero in his personal life.
He wasn't a hero in his personal life, yeah.
But as far as his expeditions go.
From a leadership perspective and motivating people to do things that maybe were above and beyond what humans should be able to do, like survive in Antarctica for an entire year.
So
got to be impressed.
So that ship of his, the Endurance, that sank in 1915, was then actually discovered in 2022. So over 100 years later, they did find the Endurance.
And I think, if I remember right from the presentation, they said it's in like 1,000 feet of water. It's very, very deep. So it's not like it's just kind of sitting under the ice. It's very deep in the water. So it's cool, though, that they were able to find it.
So visiting Antarctica and then knowing these stories around them kind of puts it all into perspective because, well, you'll see from all the video, but it's like, wow, what they did back then is just crazy.
Back to my point about Elephant Island, like when they got to Elephant Island, it wasn't like, oh, this is a hospitable place to come rest.
No.
I mean, there's no, you'll see, like it's this scary, rugged, not hospitable place. And they had to pull up their boats, make a place to land and camp.
They were relying on penguins and sea lions for food. So there were months where they weren't abundant. And
they said that when they first got there, one of the people went and scouted and saw a whole cove full of penguins. And when he got there, he came back and told everybody, oh, there's penguins over here. They all went back and all the penguins jumped in the water and left. So they had nothing. So, I mean, it really was.
But it was a very cool experience. The whole Paradise Bay and Elephant Island combined was extremely cool.
Yeah, it was amazing to be able to go see this. I hope that you all enjoyed seeing the footage. We are going to be publishing a 15, 20-minute video doesn't really do it justice. And so we've already taken the one from Paradise Bay, and we put it out there. We put our GoPro out on our balcony and we recorded for an hour. And like, if you just want to see parts of it, you'll see there's whales in there and icebergs. And I think maybe there's one sea lion in there. And then we're going to do the same thing for Elephant Island. And we're just going to put that 1 hour of footage out there. If you just want to kind of see what it's like to cruise through Antarctica, it's pretty neat. So I think that's our adventure. So we thought we'd share that with you all. I hope you enjoyed it. And make sure you like and subscribe. If you've got questions or comments about the video or kind of the information that Deb was sharing about Shackleton and all about Antarctica, leave a comment. We love them. We'll reply when we can. Otherwise,
thank you for joining us.
And we'll see you in the next video.